What's going on, everybody? Justin with the Podcast Dojo. So today we're going to be talking about Nara Dreamland in Nara, Japan. Now, originally I was going to do this video about a year ago, but actually around the same week, Bright Sun Films did a video on Nara Dreamland, so I didn't really want to do them right at the same time. But he still did an awesome job on his video. So at the end of this one, I'm going to leave an annotation for his video so you can check it out. But anyway, let's just go ahead and talk about Nara Dreamland. It's a pretty cool place, so let's go ahead and check it out.
Nara Dreamland was an idea conceived by businessman Konizo Matsuo, president of Matsuo Entertainment Company. It was post-World War II and Japan was experiencing some economic growth. Matsuo had visited Disneyland in the 1950s and was so impressed by it, he wanted to bring something like that to Japan. Walt Disney and Matsuo could not agree on licensing agreements, but come 1961, a theme park was opened in Nara because it was considered the cradle of Japanese culture at the time. The park was very similar to Disney. Things such as Sleeping Beauty's castle and Main Street USA were nearly identical in Nara Dreamland. Now, interestingly enough, Nara was actually the capital of Japan from 710 to 794, probably why it was considered the cultural part of Japan. Although the park looked eerily familiar to Disneyland, Matsuo could not get the rights to the Disney characters, so he created his own characters, a generic boy and girl character. Nara Dreamland did very well for years, bringing in about 1.6 million guests per year. The park was also a pay-per-attraction type deal, since that's how Disney operated at the time of Matsuo's visit. One of the biggest attractions was the Asuka roller coaster. It opened in 1998 and reached a height of about 30 meters, and could reach a top speed of around 50 miles per hour. This was based off the cyclone at Coney Island. However, Nara Dreamland's success would take a hit in 1983 when Disney World would come to Tokyo. Now you're probably wondering why that would affect Nara Dreamland if it was so far away. Well, why go to the knockoff Disneyland when you can go to the real thing? I should mention that Nara Dreamland had a sister park called Yokohama Dreamland, which is also defunct, but don't worry, I'll talk about that park in the future. Nara Dreamland would be bought out by supermarket chain Daiei in 1993. Things got even worse for Nara Dreamland in 2001 when Universal Studios Osaka opened up about 40 miles away, and in the same year, Disney Sea opened up next to Tokyo Disney. Things were definitely not looking good for Nara Dreamland, when the average number of guests dropped from their record of about 1.6 million a year to about 400,000 a year. The park finally closed its doors in August of 2006 due to failing attendance numbers. In its final years, it was obvious that the park was on its last legs. Shops along the Main Street section were boarded up or just closed down, and the rides looked like they hadn't been upkept in quite some time.
Now, do I think anything could have saved Nara Dreamland? Well, I guess that's the point where we get into the what-if scenario. So for this one, we're going to do, what if Matsuo had gained rights to the Disney characters?
If Nara Dreamland had been able to gain the rights to Disney characters, I believe that one of two things could happen. I'll start with the first path. First, I see it doing well, as Nara Disneyland could survive even today. Now, would Yokohama Disneyland have happened? Well, I can't say that for now, but I'll cover that when I do the video on Yokohama Dreamland. As far as the other future I see for Nara Disneyland, well, for this one we're going to say Tokyo Disney still happened, which I do believe is the more likely scenario, with Tokyo being the capital of Japan. I think that Nara Disneyland wouldn't have gone defunct, but would definitely taken a hit as far as attendance numbers. Maybe not as bad as Nara Dreamland did, but definitely a hit between Universal Studios Osaka and Tokyo Disney. But I do think Nara Disneyland would have been just fine, because of the fact that people would have just gone to Disneyland and Nara instead of traveling all the way to Tokyo.
I know I say this about every place I talk about, but I have to say I would love to have seen Nara Dreamland. In fact, one of the craziest things is that I was actually in Japan the last 2 months of Nara Dreamland being open. So it's crazy to think that I could have been one of its last attendees. I was about maybe a 3.5 hour car ride from it, but still, would have been cool to see it.
The city of Nara gained ownership of the park after the owners were behind millions of dollars on their taxes. The park went up for auction in 2013, but with no buyers. There was another auction again in 2015, but this time with a buyer, SK Housing Company, which were based out of Osaka, buying the land for about 730 million yen. That's about $6,417,357 US dollars. Demolition began to the park sometime in October of 2016. It's supposed to be about a 14-month process. The progress of the demolition and what is going to be in its place is currently unknown.
Well, that was Nara Dreamland. I hope you enjoyed this. Like I said, stay tuned. Eventually we are going to do Yokohama Dreamland. And also, I want to mention, so yes, I do want you to check out Bright Sun Films videos on this, but also Exploring with Josh and the Proper People, we're actually able to get inside the park and check it out. So I'm going to leave annotations to them as well as links in the description. Alright everyone, take care, subscribe if you enjoy what Ray and I do, and I will catch you guys next time.